Hello there and welcome. In this episode we are looking at pond filtration. Now there are quite a few different types of pond filtration available on the market at the moment. However, there are three main types which you're going to run into if you go into a local fish shop and try and get a filter for your pond. Now I'm going to go through these three different types and explain in what situation you would use them and what are their pros and cons. So the three main types you're going to come into are the all-in-one filter, the pressurized canister filter, and the gravity-fed filter. Now these systems do vary quite a lot and they have different roles to play in pond filtration. So let's begin with the all-in-one filter. Now these are a single unit which contain everything to filter your pond. They normally have a UV, a pump and some filter media. The next type is the pressurized canister filter. Now these systems require two parts. You've got your pump and then you've got your pressurized canister. Normally nowadays inside the canister you will have a UV system and you will also have a fair bit of media, and that will include biological and mechanical media. The next type is the gravity filter. Now these are the more traditional box style filter. However, they share some similarities with the pressurized canister in that they need a pump to run them. Also, they generally have a UV mounted inside of them and they are filled with both mechanical and biological media. So that's the general rundown on the three types of pond filtration. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more depth and we'll look at each filter and try and work out the pros and cons and which situation to use each filter in. So firstly, let's take a look at the all-in-one internal pond filters. Now these are a very large version of an internal aquarium filter in essence, in that they contain everything you need to filter your pond. So when you crack one of these open, they all look very similar and they all have very similar equipment inside them. Although their shape may vary, they're all designed to do the same thing. So firstly, you have a large particle filtration, which is this. It also allows water into the filter obviously, but these are designed to stop large bits getting into there like big leaves and sticks. Then you have some sponge media, and this is partially biological media but mainly mechanical filtration. Inside you'll have some form of biological media. Now this is normally very simple. Quite often it's actually just a bag of pebbles, and then in this particular filter we've got a little bit of biomedia which is designed for some bacteria to live on. In this one we've also got some fine filter, and that's just to pre-filter into the UV which is here, stopping any particles getting into it and making the UV less effective. From there we now have our exit of the water. So very simple, and you'll probably agree a lot like an aquarium filter, just a bit beefier. Now these filters are pretty good, but they're also pretty basic. They're designed for entry-level pond keepers and they're designed for small ponds. They're not designed to handle anything like koi. They're simple filters for people who just want to chuck something in, give their pond some basic filtration without the need to lay a network of piping, and also the ability just to hook it out and give it a clean when necessary. Now that is one of the downfalls of these filters, is that they do get blocked really quickly. So if you imagine this is in a goldfish pond, nothing big, maybe 1,000 litres, you've only got a small bit of sponge there, you've got a small bit of sponge in there, you're going to be cleaning this quite frequently. So these are quite maintenance heavy, and obviously they can't support a large amount of livestock. So the main benefit is basically their convenience of not being particularly hard to install, and they're pretty easy to understand, but unfortunately they do take a lot of maintenance with regards to cleaning. So second up on the roster is the pressurized canister filter. Now these are becoming one of the most popular filters for your pond because they generally do a bit of everything and they're pretty flexible where you can put them. So much like an external canister filter for a fish tank, these run under a very similar principle. One of the main differences though is the pump is situated inside of the pond rather than being inside of the canister like you'd have on an external filter for an aquarium. Now a lot of these filters will come as a kit with a pump and a canister, but they don't always do that. So firstly, talking about why you would choose a pressurized canister filter, their main benefit is placement. Because they are under pressure and run directly from this pump, you can put them anywhere you like. So the pressure from the pump is maintained through the canister, and it will allow you to run through the canister and then up to a waterfall or feature. Now this is a good benefit because it will allow you to hide your canister filter in a housing or even bury them in some cases. They also have quite a large amount of media inside of them and are capable of supporting quite large ponds, but they do have their limits. Most canister filters will have a very similar configuration. You have an inlet and you have an outlet. Some of the more fancy filters will have an extra outlet here for when you want to waste some water from your pond or if you want to do some filter maintenance. This particular filter has a cleaning handle which you can pump up and down, and it will give your media a little bit of a rub, and you'll have to waste your dirt water out through the exit. Let's have a little look inside. So inside, it's a pretty basic affair. We've got some sponge here, two different grades, some coarse and some fine, and that's about it, because this is quite a small canister filter. It hasn't got masses of media. Some of the larger canisters have huge amounts of media, different forms. They've got big bio balls in them, they've got large amounts of foam, but this one's quite basic. So from that you can infer that these are designed for medium-sized ponds and can support a good amount of fish, but not large masses of goldfish or koi. Another thing this filter has, and many of them do, is an inbuilt UV system. This will expose any water going out of the system to UV light. One of the negatives to these filters is the fact that you have to take them apart completely to give them a clean, which once you've got them situated in the ground, for instance, can be a bit of a chore. Another problem with pressurized systems is they take a little bit more wattage to power. Because that water needs to be pressurized, it takes a slightly more powerful pump to do that, and therefore energy costs may be a bit higher. Another thing is if you do get a power cut, it doesn't take a whole lot of time for the oxygen in the canister to deplete, causing a die-off of bacteria. But in general, these are a multi-purpose filter for a pond, suitable for ponds probably up to around 14,000 litres if you get a big boy. So finally, we're going to look at the gravity-fed box filter. Now these are the filters that people have been using for many, many years, way before the pressurised canister filter came out and way before the all-in-one internal filter came out. And they're hanging on because they actually work and they do a very good job. They have some downfalls, but they have some pros as well. Like the canister filter, they're run by a pump, but their actual shape is very different. These aren't run under a huge amount of pressure, they're just run under atmospheric pressure. Firstly, they take up a lot more space than the pressurised canister filter for a similar sort of pond size. Now box filters run under gravity, and that means they need to be placed above your pond to actually get the water back into your pond. So what I mean by that is the water going into this filter is pushed up by the pump, but the water going back to your pond just trickles out under the power of gravity. So therefore you need it to be placed at a point where the water will naturally just trickle back into your pond. And that limits you on where you can actually put this filter. But it is good if you want to run a waterfall. So looking inside one of these gravity filters, you can see that they are quite a lot bigger. And this means quite a lot more media. Also, a larger UV. So this kind of suggests that the overall filtration ability of these particular filters is larger, and that assumption would be correct. So here is the amount of media that you get in what I would consider to be a small box filter, and as you can see, that is a huge amount of surface area, which equates to a huge amount of filtration. So box filters give you a large amount of filtration, which means that they can support a larger pond and they can support a larger amount of fish, or they can support a decent population of fish which require higher water quality, i.e. koi. So box filters are really the filter of choice for people who want to keep koi ponds, because they give you a huge amount of filtration. The downsides to this is the fact that they take a large amount of cleaning, because all this media is going to get clogged up with a lot of dirt, and if you don't clean them regularly, what happens is you get big build-ups of dirt in certain parts of the filter, and then the water will take the path of least resistance and you end up losing quite a lot of your filtration capability. So with the upside of good filtration, you've got the downsides of quite a lot of messy cleaning and the fact that you have to put it in certain spots to actually get it to work, i.e. it needs to be above your pond. But in contrast to the pressurized canister filter, where the pump has to be quite high wattage, this one can be a lower wattage pump because it doesn't have to maintain that pressure within the system. And also, if you get a power outage, because this isn't a sealed box, the oxygen within the atmosphere can go into the pump and keep your filter media alive a bit longer, so you don't get as much of a die-off. So just quickly in summary, if you are a very novice pond keeper or just want to have a really small pond with a really basic and fairly easy to maintain filter just to maintain a small amount of goldfish or just something like a nature pond, then the all-in-one filter is probably your best bet. If you are going for a small to medium-sized pond with a decent amount of livestock in there, or you just want the flexibility of being able to put your filter wherever you want, then the pressurized canister filter is a good choice for you. If you don't mind where you put your filter and are quite happy to put it above your pond and run a waterfall or just a pipe back into it, and or are looking for a large amount of filtration capability to support some big fish such as koi in a large pond, then the box filter is probably your best choice. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's been vaguely informative as to what filter choice you should go for your pond. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of this kind of content. Thank you for watching, and happy fish keeping!